welcome to the first inaugural episode of the Irish Nerdcast.
We are very excited, but also quite nervous.
Incredibly nervous. We are amateurs at this, but we are going to do our best to improve as we go along. Help us.
Yeah, going forward, we are definitely going to try and improve. We are getting new equipment coming soon, so that will help things along. And yeah, this is our first episode, one of hopefully many.
So, with all of that palaver out of the way, I'm Hannah.
Yes, you are. And I am JoJo.
Yes, you are. Bit of background about us. We've been together for 15 years.
Too long.
Too long. Not long enough, also. And we are huge nerds.
And whether you're a seasoned veteran of the nerd world or just dipping your toes in, there's something for everyone here. We cover everything from games, anime, manga, trading card games, movies, comics, and whatever other nerdy obsession catches our eye. So join us as we deep dive into the worlds we love, share our thoughts, theories, and maybe even a few embarrassing fanboy moments. We're passionate about creating a community where everyone feels to share their nerdy passions. So grab your favorite snack, put on your headphones, and get ready for a nerdy adventure. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about Magic the Gathering, which is a trading card game. And we're going to be talking about a new set that's come out for Magic the Gathering called Bloomburrow. So we will be discussing some of the lore that is in Bloomburrow, their world building, and talking about the story that has been released online. And I would like people to keep in mind that though you might not be necessarily into Magic the Gathering, it is a very fun story time that we're going to have. And we're also going to have everything discussed today linked in our description. So with that, we're going to start our first episode talking about Bloomburrow. Hannah, take it away.
We're going to start with, as all good stories do, the beginning. Chapter 1, which again, we're going to have a link to if you're interested in reading along. We're just going to give an overall synopsis. For clarity, I have read all 5 chapters. JoJo, you've only read the first 2.
Yeah, it is really interesting, but I just didn't get the time to finish it off.
That's fair. That's fair. I will say, as somebody who has not read a lot of the Magic sets, I learn about them kind of like, like through third parties like we're doing now. There are plenty of official and non-official resources on YouTube, as well as the official Magic the Gathering podcast that do audiobook style readings, or they will do synopses highlighting specific characters to look out for. But I will say, reading it for myself, the writing is actually really good. There are several moments that made me laugh out loud. There were moments that had me like doing a little dance in my chair because it was a big reveal or lore drop that I got.
Yeah, I noticed you doing that. I wanted to ask so much what happened, but we were decided to save it for this episode, so give me an actual reaction.
Yeah. So chapter 1 is entitled Calamity Comes to Valley. So just to give a brief overview, there are 3 principal characters in this story. We have our protagonist, our deuteragonist, and then a special third POV for chapter 1 only, who we will get to. Our protagonist is named Helga, and she is a frog. Again, just to explain Bloomburrow a little bit, think Watership Down, Flyful Goes West, The Secret of Nim. Every character is an animal. It is all small and cute, but they live full lives as they should be. There are no people. It is very much kept to small, cute things.
Like people, even humans.
Yeah, there are no humans.
So humans. Okay.
There are no humans. There is nothing bigger than a bird.
Oh.
Well, no, actually, I take that back. There are bears.
Yeah.
But in terms of sentient creatures, nothing bigger than a bird. That's kind of the vibe of the whole area.
I mean, I'm pretty sure the bear is also sentient.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll get to that. But our protagonist is a frog named Helga, and I love her. We're just establishing that now. Her card, if you were looking at the card list, is Helga the Skittish Seer.
She's banned, I believe.
She is white, green, blue.
Yeah.
One of the few 3-color cards of the principal cast. So she is a druid, and we find her in the first chapter attempting to scry to foresee the future out of a pond near where she lives. We learn a lot about her from this initial few paragraphs. One, she's a bit of a screw up. It is established from her discussions with another character that she can't hold down a job. She keeps being sent away because she's messing stuff up. The term coddled is used. This rabbit friend that she has, Neris, specifically uses the term coddled, referring to Helga's late grandparents. So we established that she's all alone in the world. Nobody in Pondside really believes in her. And then she's finally left alone to continue her scrying. She brings out her sketchbook where she has sketched things from dreams and visions that she's had. But again, we get the sense that nobody really believes in her visions, that she is just somebody with an overactive imagination or somebody attention seeking in the wake of the passing of her grandparents.
Yeah. Okay. And somehow she can hold it is a she? Helga,
yes, Helga.
Okay. I find it very interesting that she can hold a paintbrush. What kind of digits do they have in their hand?
I mean, you can look at the cards and see, but she's like, it's very like Ninja Turtles esque.
Okay.
Where it's like the three fingers. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And listen, they can do a lot more than just paint because it's established that she trained under a very powerful weaver, as they're called in Bloomburrow, which is like a magic user.
Okay. So
weaving is the term used for like casting spells.
So basically, a wizard or a mage.
Specifically, the king. We will come back to the king.
Okay, fair enough.
There is a king of frogs, but Helga's most recent visions have been very doom and gloom, for lack of a better term. She obviously doesn't understand what they mean, and she has nobody to turn to learn about their meaning. And then, as the title suggests, the worst comes in the form of Calamity Beast.
Okay, so she sees a vision of this Calamity Beast and wants to tell everyone?
She actually doesn't get a chance. So she has the vision, and then she hears the warning bell of Pondside.
Oh, so as soon as she has the vision,
as soon as it happens.
Right.
And specifically, the Calamity Beast that comes is Maha, the Night Owl.
Maha,
the Night Owl. And there's actually a card that depicts Maha's arrival to Pondside. And you can see in the art how massive this bird is by comparison to the buildings below it.
Okay.
It's actually really terrifying to look at. I have a bit of an excerpt here from the chapter.
Okay.
High above, a huge shadow soared and circled in eerie silence. The creature was enormous, its wingspan as broad as the branches of an oak tree. Deep blue and violet on its belly, breast, and wings transitioned into black striped primaries, tail feathers. Turquoise magic suffused its beautiful, terrible form, lit up its eyes and beak within its hollow face, limbed its deadly talons. In its wake, velvety night followed, cutting across the bright blue sky like scissors through a cloth to reveal stark-like darkness beneath. Maha, the Night Owl.
Damn.
So this is what I meant when I said there are creatures bigger than our primary characters. However, they are forces of nature, for lack of a better word. So while yes, if you're looking for the card list, you will see Maha, the Night Owl. You will see, I forget the name of the bear, but there is a bear Calamity Beast. There is a lion Calamity Beast, or like a mountain lion-esque creature. But these are things to be feared. It's like giving a hurricane a name. The hurricane does not have a personality.
It's like Hurricane Katrina or whatever.
Exactly. It's Maha, the Night Owl, is coming to destroy us all. So Maha lays waste to Pondside, or at the very least begins their attack. And Helga is left with seemingly an impossible choice. Does she attempt to save the people of her town, or does she go to the next town and warn them? And she chooses the latter.
I mean, I don't know what a single frog can do against the Calamity Beast.
This is the thing, and keeping in mind that she has been verbally put down since our introduction of her. She is full of self-doubt. She has no one to turn to. Her support system and her grandparents is gone. What else can she do would attempt to save people who might have a better chance.
Okay.
Which is where we meet our secondary protagonist, Mabel. And if you've been paying attention to the marketing of the Bloomburrow set from Wizards of the Coast, you know exactly who Mabel is already.
The little mouse mascot.
Yes. She is on every box. She is on every pack. I keep calling her Mrs. Brisby because she looks like Mrs. Brisby from The Secret of Nim. She is a little field mouse. She wears a cloak. She has a like a red amulet around her neck and a really cool sword.
Love to hear if people remember what Secret of Nim is.
No one does.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's a live-action remake happening. Allegedly, the Russo brothers may or may not be attached.
Well, they're doing that. We'll get into it another time.
But our introduction to Mabel might be a little off kilter from what people are expecting based off of the marketing, where we've seen her in her at her most heroic. Because it's important to note that while yes, Mabel will be one of our main heroes, right now she is a mother and she is a baker. She is descendant of a hero, her grandmother Iris, her mother Lily, who both wielded this blade before she did.
Oh, I remember it was like a tooth of some sort.
Yes, it looks like a little red tooth.
Which I'm assuming they've like made fit the size of a mouse.
Yes, I believe it came from a Calamity Beast because there is a point later on in chapter 2 where Mabel is remembering her mother showing her where the sword is being kept because they're keeping it in the attic because they don't need it anymore. The time for fighting is over. We're bakers now.
Oh, speaking of Calamity Beasts,
yes.
Just looked it up, and the name of the bear was Lumra.
They don't factor into the story, which is why I don't remember.
Fair enough. I mean, it doesn't even show up.
He is one of the ones that don't. Yeah.
Doesn't get a mention.
Nope.
Oh, okay. So it's just a list of beasts.
Not that I recall, anyway.
Okay.
But yeah, there is a point in chapter 2 where Mabel is remembering being told a story about the sword, where her grandmother came home and found, assumably, Mabel's uncle as a child wielding the sword after an intruder came in, and what was left of the intruder. And Mabel's question is, what was left? And her mother answers, ashes. Only ashes.
Ooh.
It is a powerful sword that they've given this mouse. A visitor comes to see Mabel, asking about it. So, important context. The day that this story takes place, or begins, is Mabel's birthday. And it's a very, very cute scene where she is making her own birthday cake, because again, she's a baker, she wouldn't have anybody else do it. You know this. You relate to this. And she has her 3 children in the background, Rosalind, Pip, and Foggy.
Well, you can remember.
Yeah. Fighting one another as they're trying to like hang up her birthday sign, which originally read "Happy Birthday, Ma'am," and then the "Ma'am" is crossed out, and then it's changed to Mabel.
Oh,
because because it's a community-wide event. She's not everybody's mother. That's literally what the line is.
Yeah, I think I remember it saying that like only people of her family have the right to call her ma'am.
Exactly. Yeah, and her husband Clem is also there. They're a very happy, very cute family, and they are then visited by the mayor of their town of Good Hill.
It's a good hill.
Good Hill.
Yep.
And there's a town there.
It's a really nice hill.
These are very descriptive place names. We have Pondside and we've got Good Hill.
Yeah, so we're beside the pond and we're on a very good hill.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't be complicating things.
No, just keep it simple.
But yeah, so Oliver comes and he and Mabel have an interaction that you can tell based by the writing they've had many times before, where Oliver turns up where he is not wanted and Mabel has to deal with his nonsense.
I'm sure many people have dealt with this.
Yes. So there's 2 great paragraphs that I have here that will highlight this. Mabel, Oliver called with a wave. He was short, as local rabbit folk went, with cinnamon brown fur and a quilted vest in bright greens and yellows. Happiest of birthdays to you, my dear. You looking as pretty as a portrait. She looked like a tired mother in a flower-coated, jam-stained apron. Thank you, Oliver, Mabel replied. You're too kind. In her mind, they crossed swords. She hates this man.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, I think quite a few people have experienced this feeling. As someone comes up and you're just in your mind.
Like, I will fight you. Give me any reason and I'll fight you if my children weren't here. But the reason that Oliver has come is not, in fact, to wish her happy birthday. It's one, to remind her that her birthday is not her own. It is a community-wide event. And two, he wants her to bring the sword down to show it off.
Sounds like a lovely guy.
Like, specifically, he says there's a bard coming. He's going to be telling tales of old, of the heroics of this of her grandmother and that adventuring party. Bring the sword down for some show and tell. It'll be very, informative. And she's like, no, go away. And it's only because her children like fall off of their elaborately constructed tower and she has to like leap in and rescue them. Getting like one of them in her ear and the other one like pokes her in the eye and stuff, but she does it because motherhood.
Children always a great excuse to get away.
Yes, that's the only way that they get him to go. And apparently this is something Oliver has done for decades. Because
what? How old is Mabel?
Mabel is not. I mean,
Mabel or Mabel? I can't remember.
It is Mabel.
Mabel.
Yes. Mabel. I don't know. Mouse mother age. In my head, she's like in her 30s. I don't know, like equivalent. But Oliver has.
What's this mouse years?
Yeah, I don't know what the equivalent is. But there is a line where she says that her father was so deft at dealing with Oliver's nonsense that he would be sent home and not knowing he had been rejected yet. So he's been asking to see this sword for a very, very long time.
Well, the rabbit, it's also very old.
Yes. And once again, we hear warning bells as Helga comes across Foothill, and she is clearly exhausted and she's injured. Mabel is one of the first on the scene because that's just the type of mouse that she is. She is a hero, through and through, even if she is just a baker now. So Mabel finds Helga, who does faint in her arms because of exhaustion and injuries. But Helga does get out the words, calamity beast, attack. So they have an idea of what's happened.
Yeah, well, hearing that must be quite scary.
Yes. And, again, just kind of showcasing the difference in the power structure within the town. Oliver is stood there like, he's been slapped in the face, being like, oh no, what do we do? And it's Mabel who takes the initiative of, okay, she needs to rest, she needs to heal, I am bringing her back to my house.
So why is she not the mayor?
Because she's a baker.
Oh, yeah.
She doesn't mind the quiet life, she just hates bureaucrats, which is, a very common theme in a lot of fantasy media.
In a lot of magic media.
Yes, true, which is ironic in some ways. Speaking of a lot of magic media, this is where our third point of view character comes in. And if you have played Magic the Gathering for a while, you know exactly who this is.
Or follow the story.
This is Ral. And important to note for people who are unfamiliar, Ral is a human.
But you said there was no humans.
That's because he is not from Bloomburrow. In Magic the Gathering, there are a special group of people, fewer now these days because of shenanigans in previous sets, called Planeswalkers. In the card game, mechanically, they function differently to, basic type of creature cards. Ral comes from a plane called Ravnica. I believe he is the head of one of the factions there, but notably, he is not the overall head. But he is specifically looking for another person, Jace Bellerin, who has done a lot of bad things in recent times. If you want to give a bit of backstory there.
Well, it's a part of a different episode, I think, but in the gist of it is a big, scary, evil alien like virus thing turns everyone into what they are, and supposedly he gets turned into one.
The Borg, basically.
But also apparently not, because that was just an illusion, and he was away doing something else. Or at least what we knew was Jace was an illusion and he was posing as someone else. Yeah. So, big long story. Way too much happened to go into.
Yeah, and he's been, for lack of a better term, he and his girlfriend, Braska,
I think they're still a thing.
They've recently adopted. It's fine. If you know, you know. They have been essentially on the run since the events that we were just discussing, which is why Ral is looking for Jace in particular. He wants Jace to come back to Ravnica and for things to be as they were. However, he is finding it difficult to track him down. So he discusses with his husband Tomek the usual, I'm going to kill Jace. No, you're not going to kill Jace. You need him alive. Yeah, but I want to. Yeah, but you're not going to. Essentially coming to the conclusion of, okay, Ral is going to do his best to track him down. He comes to find another former planeswalker, because again, fewer planeswalkers these days, named the Wanderer, who used to be able to find anybody in the planescape. Not so anymore, since she's lost her spark, the thing that allows people to planeswalk. And she gives Ral some instructions on how he could find Jace if this is really what he wants to do.
Which the advice wasn't well received.
No, Ral's not one who likes mysticism.
He doesn't like to go out and touch grass much.
He's a scientist. He likes being indoors, playing with his toys, which we relate to, honestly. And so you might be wondering, how does he factor in then to the story of Bloomburrow? How does this human man work with a frog and a mouse? And that's because he uses the instructions given to him by the Wanderer to reach out into the planescape, into the ethereal, and try and like track Jace down via aura, essentially. And he does this, and he planeswalks to where the aura leads him. And to quote the story here, found himself in a field surrounded by dandelions. They were taller than any he had ever seen. So was the grass and the distant trees. What plain was this? Where was Beleren? He ran his hand over his face in disgust, then froze. What had happened to his face? Were those whiskers? Was he covered in fur? Was that a tail? I'm going to kill him, Ral shouted, his eyes filling with lightning as he shook his paw at the sky.
I do love the pause there. It's like, is that a tail? It's like the other stuff is like, oh, no, what is this? And then he sees the tail.
He actually doesn't like the tail.
Okay. Yeah.
We learn that in a later chapter, but this is the only POV we get of Ral, which I'm saddened by. He does come back in the story in a major way. But
Okay.
yes, Ral has transformed as soon as he came to Bloomburrow, which is not something that typically happens when planeswalkers arrive on different planes.
Okay.
It's not like people go to Eldraine, the fairy tale themed plane, and suddenly turn into fairies or into elves if they weren't already. They don't go to Innistrad and become werewolves and vampires. This is a very unique thing to the setting.
So whatever magic is working here on this plane will turn, or anything that's not of that plane,
Yes.
into an animal.
Now, it is notable in terms of the cards. We have no native planeswalkers of Bloomburrow. There are no cards that indicate that, say, Mabel or Helga or any of the other characters that we're going to get to know along the way could go to Ravnica or another plane and then become people. None of these characters have a spark like Ral does.
Yeah, there is a thing now which is like the omen paths. So a little bit of a spoiler. The thing that Jace and Vraska ended up grabbing in their previous story when they were working together was this creature that basically is a map for the omen paths and another little bit of disposition. Essentially, before this, the only way to go to a different plane was to planeswalk. Only planeswalkers could go through what's called the blind eternities. And because of the stuff that happened with the Phyrexians, the evil alien creature things, they managed to break down the barriers and merge all the planes together. But it's not necessarily that you can just like go from one plane to any other plane. They are now kind of next to each other with certain paths. And so certain planes are connected to other planes, and people might not know how to get to a specific plane. They'd have to explore basically. And I think Bloomburrow may be one of these. I haven't read the entire story, but I don't believe there's any mention of a way to get there or come from there.
No, seemingly not, because Ral specifically has to planeswalk there, and he will later at the end of the story planeswalk away. It seems to be closed off as far as we know. It could be that Ral is not bothered checking for these pathways, but also nothing has come about natively.
In this story, does the others find out that Ral isn't from there, or does he kind of keep up the appearance darkness the whole time.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
So chapter 2 then, I mentioned to you when I was reading it, gave me Lord of the Rings vibes.
Okay.
And that seems to be very much intentional. The chapter is entitled An Expected Party, which is a reference to the first chapter of The Lord of the Rings, which is called The Long Expected Party.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason I say it is reminiscent of Lord of the Rings is overview. What happens in chapter 2 is the birthday party for Mabel happens, and at the end of it, an adventuring party is formed. It's essentially a condensed version of the Fellowship of the Ring.
It could do it being condensed, to be honest.
Don't you dare. Those films and books are sacred. But we start again with Helga as our first point of view character. She wakes up in Mabel's home. She is visited by Oliver. She explains to them what happened. And once again, Oliver in particular writes her off, being like, oh, you didn't have a vision. Don't be silly, overactive imagination. You've seemed to be through a lot, but I'm sure everything is fine. Mabel, on the other hand, believes her and tells her as much, being like, I think what you saw was real. I'm going to do my best to help you.
Okay. Did she properly say, yes, I believe you, or did she just not dismiss what she said?
Column A, column B. She does not dismiss what she says, and she says that she believed that Helga had a vision, but she can't ascertain, how true the extent of the damage done by Maha is.
Yeah.
Without going to Pondside herself. She does tell her husband, Clem, that she wants to go and that she does believe Helga, if only out of the necessity of, I want to make sure that my home and my family are safe. I need to be able to do this.
Okay. That makes sense, I guess.
I love Helga so much. After Oliver says, basically, I don't believe you, she just breaks down crying.
Yeah.
Because this poor little frog has been through so much, and Oliver gets kicked out because of it, and rightly so. But Mabel is a very, very clever mouse. And she uses her birthday party, and specifically what Oliver wanted, against him. If you remember, Oliver really wanted Mabel to bring down this sword and to show it off and be like, yes, we are very important. We have a long history of heroism in the town of Goodhill. And so that's what she does.
About time.
But she does it in a way that, one, it's on her terms. Oliver doesn't know that she's bringing it. But two, she specifically brings it as a rallying point, saying, we have brought somebody here who has seen and witnessed something terrible, and I'm going to make sure nobody else gets hurt who's with me.
Very good.
Very, very good.
But yeah, so if I didn't get all the way through chapter 2, but I do remember that Oliver was like trying to squash any concerns people had, saying,
Yes.
no, that would never happen. It didn't. This hasn't happened in a long time.
Again, it's typical politician in a fantasy setting. It'll never happen to us.
So it's very much a slap in Oliver's face for Mabel too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. So this is the bit in particular. I haven't seen the destruction, Mabel said, raising her voice above the din. But I have heard Helga's story. To disbelieve her is to risk suffering for ourselves and others, and I do not think that is very brave at all. Nor is it practical. And most of us are practical folk, aren't we? Reluctant agreement replied, nods and ear twitches and smothered whiskers. Clem emerged from their home carrying a cloth-wrapped object and made his way towards her. The practical thing to do, Mabel said, is to go to Pondside, check on the villagers, and render aid. Goodhill may be safe now, but if there is a calamity beast at large, we may not remain safe for much longer. Maha could spread darkness across not only Olive Valley, but the farthest reaches of Bloomburrow. At which point she pulls out her sword. Oliver's then going, oh God, no. And then the entire town is behind her. And 4 people in specific, which is our new fellowship. And all of these characters I'm going to mention have cards, which we will likely touch on because some of them are really, really good cards. One of them is Phineas the Rabbit, who is an archer. There is Hugs the Badger, and his sidekick, for lack of a better term, Hugs.
That's the.
The badger is named Hugs.
Is he a nice, soft, friendly badger?
The artwork in his card depicts him destroying a skeleton with his hands.
Ah, yes, Hugs.
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 Yes. And his best friend, Gev, the lizard. Gev, Gev.
Okay, simple, I guess.
And then lastly, Zoraline, who is a bat.
You got Hugs again, and then Zoraline.
Zoraline. So to kind of again put like a little bit of mechanical spin on this, all of these cards are different two-pair colors. So Mabel is red-white. Zoraline is black-white.
Also, for anyone that doesn't know, in Magic the Gathering, the card game, there is 5 colors. That's called mana, and that's kind of represents the personality and the type of magic that they have, and they stick to a sort of theme. So, red, as you can imagine, is probably like very energetic. It's aggressive, passionate, creative as well. Sometimes a lot of artisans have red. So just a little bit of context in that regard. The colors of magic tend to have a lot of meaning.
Yes. And as I said earlier, Helga is the only one amongst them who is 3 colors, which is green, blue, white.
Yeah. And so
Gev is red, black. Hugs, I believe, is green, red. Zoraline is black, white. Mabel is red, white. And Phineas, I believe, is green, white. We will double check that when we go through the cards.
I believe he's green, white, yes.
Yes, rabbits in general typically are green, white. So they are the Fellowship, and they are going to set out back to Pondside to survey the damage, render aid if they can, figure out what the next steps are from there.
The not Fellowship.
Yes. Whatever the correct one is.
Whatever the non-trademarked one is.
Yes, whatever they're an adventuring party of 6. So chapter 3, which is entitled The Lost and the Found, starts with Helga learning a bit about the people that she's traveling with. Mainly Gev, because Gev is a boaster and a talker, and she's basically informed to disregard the majority of stuff that he says.
Okay, are they like on the road traveling?
Yes, they are on the road traveling now, back to Pondside.
Right, okay.
Zoraline, to my kind of annoyance, is not much of a character, because as a bat, she's asleep the majority of the time. So we don't get to know a lot about her.
Did you mention what the other characters were? What creatures they were? You said that one was a badger, but I don't know.
So Hugs is a badger. Yeah. Gev is a lizard.
A lizard, okay.
Yes. Phineas is a rabbit.
Yeah, you mentioned the rabbit.
And Zoraline is a bat.
So, okay, a bat, nocturnal.
Nocturnal, so she is asleep unless there is fighting happening. There is a funny moment with her that we'll get to. So unfortunately, we don't learn a lot about her as a character. Gev, as I said, is a boaster and a talker. He and Hugs are part of a adventuring group or a mercenary group on their own. And there is again, tall tales being told. Mabel kind of tells Helga to disregard a lot of what Gev says. He doesn't mean it like in a bad way. He just likes bigging himself up, especially since Hugs doesn't talk much.
The big, strong, silent type.
Yes.
Called Hugs.
Called Hugs.
Do you like giving hugs?
Not entirely sure, but he and Gev were part of a group called the Striped Rapscallions.
The Striped Rapscallions.
The Striped Rapscallions.
The Striped Rapscallions. Okay.
Yes. And specifically, Gev says that it was those two and a skunk folk named Kiki.
I was about to say, that sounds like a skunk.
Yes.
Kiki's cute.
Kiki is cute.
That's a cute name.
Yeah. There are notably no skunks in the set.
I was going to say, I don't think I've seen a skunk.
No. Hugs is also the only badger. And there's a couple of cards like that where there's like one weasel, there's one badger, there's one fox.
God, I hope we get I hope we're able to get a better look at skunks. I want a skunk deck. That'd be amazing.
What would that be, though?
Poison?
I guess infect. Sure.
I don't know. Stink.
Stink. But yes, there is a bit here. But again, it just speaks to the writing of it. The striped rapscallions, Helga asked. Helga and myself, Gav explained. We also traveled with a skunk folk named Kiki, but she's gone to her rest. I'm so sorry. When did she pass on? Oh, she's not dead. Fell in love with the raccoon folk and settled down to raise ladybugs.
Ladybugs.
Yes.
So when a skunk and a raccoon get together, they have ladybugs.
They start farming, I guess.
Oh, I thought they had kids.
We've adopted. No, I think it's like raise them as you would like raise livestock.
Right. Okay. So their form of livestock is insects. Got it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
What do they milk? I don't want to know.
Let's not ask.
Yeah.
Let's not ask these questions that we don't want the answers to. But you know, this is a lot.
Oh, they can make a cake.
They can make cakes.
That must mean they have something like maybe it's a vegan cake.
Sure.
Yeah, they don't have eggs.
I've seen the carrot cake. I don't think there's anything dairy in that.
Oh yes, like lumps of carrot.
Yeah.
Held together with something.
Something.
Hopes and dreams.
Grain, I assume. But they do eventually arrive at Pondside, and it has been destroyed.
Ooh.
Almost totally. And this obviously puts Helga in a state of grief, even more so. They don't see anybody around except for two squirrels who are looting.
Okay, yeah.
And they are specifically following in the wake of the destruction of Maha, the Calamity Beast, under the orders of Cruel Claw.
Cruel Claw?
Cruel Claw has a card called the infamous Cruel Claw. They are a weasel mercenary.
Okay.
And
my voice for them in my head is instantly like, ah, she.
That's the vibe, yeah, for sure. If you look at the art, they're very cunning looking.
And it's oil layers.
Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
And if you are familiar with the mechanics of Bloomburrow squirrels, it shouldn't surprise you that these two are necromancers.
Yeah, that's something we haven't gone into yet, but.
So each main animal grouping within Bloomburrow have specific mechanics associated with them. Squirrels deal with the dead.
Because, they like to bury things?
And unbury things.
Sure.
Let's go with that. But this then results in a fight scene because obviously they're not going to stand for this and they need to get as much information as they can. And during the fight, Helga attempts to use a water step cantrip that would allow Mabel to essentially walk up some stairs made of water in order to gain vantage point. But because of her own self-doubt, the spell fails and Mabel ends up falling.
Ooh.
She's still able to do what she needs to, but this obviously doesn't do great for Helga's self-esteem within the group. Even though everybody does reassure her, they're all very nice about it.
Oh.
But they get some additional information that they need, not anything super important, so they don't know who Cruel Claw is working for yet. But they do know where their next destination is, and that is, I don't know why they let us Irish people say this, Three Tree City. So hard.
3 Tree City.
3 Tree City.
3.
3 Tree City, yeah.
3 Tree City.
Yes.
If we say it enough times, we'll eventually get it.
Sure. Which is the main metropole of the Bloomburrow world. I'm given to understand based off of the lore.
Also, a city?
Yes, it's a city.
It's a tree.
It's 3 trees, and it's a city.
Oh, it's not. It's 3 trees, not 3 threes.
What? You're gonna mess me up, don't do that. Anyway, they go to tree. God damn it.
It worked.
They go to 3 Tree City, where there are 3 trees and a lot of water, actually.
Why is it not called 3 Tree City and Water?
I wasn't in charge of the planning. But when they're going along there in an attempt to, find more information about Cruel Claw, Mabel sees a rather unusual otter speaking with some of the locals. Specifically, attempting to describe somebody and doing a very, very bad job.
This wouldn't happen to be Ral.
This is Ral. Ral has turned into an otter, and he, despite being an otter, despite being in a realm of talking creatures, he is still very much Ral, which means he's rude. And nobody wants to help him because he is rude. Mabel and Helga overhear his description of Jace Bellerin. Blue cloak.
Is he trying to describe a human?
Yes.
Okay.
Specifically, he says, I assure you, the situation is infinitely more irritating to me than it is to you. Is it now? The other otter folk replied. You can't even tell us what kind of animal folk he is. As I said, he may be wearing a blue cloak, and he has distinctive tattoos. Tattoos? Someone else chimed in. What are those then? If you are familiar with Jace Bellerin, these are not bad descriptors. But when you're saying it to otters and rabbits and mice, they're not going to know what that is.
Where humans don't exist.
Exactly.
Do monkeys exist? I wonder, do monkeys exist?
Not here.
Okay.
Not here. Mabel's first thought is literally rude. That's all she thinks. She sees Ral and goes, rude, and attempts to move on. But Helga has also overheard. And she goes up to Ral.
Oh, she had a vision?
Helga flipped through her book, nearly fumbling it. She stopped at a particular page and held it up. The stranger grabbed her arm and pulled her closer. Did Bellerin pass through here, he demanded. How long ago? Was anyone with him? At which point Mabel steps in, release her, don't, leave my poor friend alone. Get your hands off her, mate.
I'm sure Helga was quite frightened at this.
Mabel peeked at Helga's journal. The frog folk had drawn a face, a fox folk. They did indeed have markings like the one the stranger, Ral, described. On the same page, Helga had also drawn a cloak with an odd circular pattern.
Yes, to those who don't know, that describes Jace very well.
It gets better.
Okay.
I have seen him in my dreams, Helga whispered, her tone gradually strengthening. He's not alone. There is a lizard folk with green and black scales and yellow eyes, and another small creature who's hard to see. A dark cloud follows them.
Oh. So that would be his girlfriend and the little creature that they have procured.
Procured is a great term. Because as mentioned, Vraska is a Gorgon.
I think I seen a card for Vraska. I haven't actually looked at the detail of it.
Is there a card for Vraska? I've not seen one.
There is a card for Vraska. I'm not sure if it's a secret lair or not. But I have to look into it more. But the image I seen of it was a snake. Interesting, because this specifically says that it's not. Yeah, it says lizard folk.
Yeah, and Ral actually comments that a lizard, not a snake, could it be? He's obviously also thinking of Vraska. Now, notably, in the last set that Vraska was in, she had lost her tail. In Thunder Junction, she had legs. And that was a bit of a stray away from her usual designs.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, she has legs.
Wait, does she not always have legs? Wait, I'm confused. Does she not always have legs? I'm pretty sure I've seen art for her with legs.
When I think Vraska, I think of her like, if you've ever seen a Naga from Persona 5 or any of the Persona games.
Or if
Snake from the hips down,
yeah.
But she also has the snake Medusa hair.
Or what are they called? Lamia?
Lamia, yeah.
Lamia, and then if you're in D&D, Yuan-Ti. Or Yuan-Tai.
Yes.
One of them.
One of the two. I think in my version of D&D, Yuan-Ti and Yuan-Tai are different.
Oh, Q.
One is the
Pureblood?
snake. One is the snake people, and the other are the people snakes.
That's not confusing.
We'll
Okay.
get to that in our D&D episode.
I can't wait. When's that?
Future sometimes, but this is enough for Ral to kind of join the party because he needs as much information on Jace as we can get. And if you're looking into the set, you'll know that there actually is a card for Jace. It is not canon to the story. A bunch of the Planeswalkers got animal versions of themselves, including Jace, and Jace's is a fox. But of course, we cannot tarry for long because, oh no, another warning bell.
Oh, yay.
Oh no, another warning bell. The river had risen well past the high tide marker on a nearby piling and continued to swell, quickly overflowing its banks. Waves crested over the quay, up the cracks of the boardwalk, lapping first at Mabel's boots, then her legs. And we are then seen by another calamity beast, the Floodgar, which is the closest thing we have to a fish. And it's very scary, honestly.
We'll put an image of it up.
We will have an image of it. It again has a card. We'll have images of all the story-related cards up on the YouTube feed. And again, this also serves as a anchor point as to showing how out of his depth Ral is. Because Ral, if you are familiar with him, his thing is lightning. He has these gauntlets that lets him harness the power of lightning, and he redirects it. That's his whole bit. So he attempts to do that, and Mabel stops him, saying, if you shock the water, you will shock every other creature that is not an otter.
And this guy's a scientist?
We never said he was good.
Like, okay.
It's also notable that while lightning harnessing is something that otters can do in the world of Bloomburrow, they can also control the tides and the currents, like water-based magic or weaving. But Ral cannot. He is limited to his pre-existing skill set. So it seems that whatever glamour moving to this plane has given him, it is aesthetic only.
Well, I mean, these are still skills that people have to learn.
That's true, as shown by Helga not being great at her innate abilities. So with the Floodguard's attack on the city, this is actually a fight that our intrepid heroes do not win. The water sweeps them away.
Oh, so okay, that was short-lived.
Yeah, they still live. They're fine.
Oh, okay.
Nominally, but they do get swept away into an undercurrent and then into this tunnel system beneath the city.
Oh, super cult.
You're not far off.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, you're not far off. So beneath the city, where they eventually come up, and thankfully they all manage to stick together, Ral included.
Yay.
Yeah, that was Mabel's reaction, I'm sure. So they arrive in this underground cave system, and they're all, hacking up lungs of water. They are exhausted and, defeated, for lack of a better term. And then they realize that they are surrounded by rats.
Cool. Love the rats.
Rats don't love them. It is very not a friendly surrounding. It is very much state your business.
Yeah, I kind of wonder where rats played into the story.
Yeah, we'll get to the rats. The rats are a big part of chapter 4.
Is Azaf there?
No, no.
Oh, he's still on Thunder.
No, the main rat. His name is Coffee.
Not Grizzle.
No, it is not Rizzo.
Wait, did you say Coffee?
His name is Coffee.
Like
Coffey.
Coffee or
Coffee?
Coffee? Whatever their name is, Coffee. I guess they are now known as Coffee.
Coffee.
Caffeine. Different franchise.
He arrives at the beginning of chapter 4, entitled Soothsaying and Stormcalling, just to give you a bit of a sense of where we're going with this. And he, grants them passage through the cave system. So they no longer have sharp, pointy sticks at their throats. So it's all good. It's all
You
fine.
shall pass.
Exactly.
Wait, is this just the Fellowship of the Ring going under the mine? Is it the Mines Moria?
This has a much happier ending than the mines do.
Oh, that's good at least.
Yeah. So Cafe and his rats, they are lore keepers.
You mean coffee?
For ease, and so you quit making faces at me. Yes, Cafe. Cafe and his rats are lore keepers of Bloomburrow. And they have been keeping an eye on Cruel Claw for a while because he seemingly controls the beasts.
Interesting.
And the way in which he controls the beasts is that he has taken a Calamity Beast egg belonging to a Calamity Beast. There is a card of this, which we'll have up.
I was going to say, is it not the egg of the owl?
It is Maha's egg. Yes.
Yeah, okay. I don't know.
Our party doesn't quite put that together until the final chapter, but if you look at the artwork, it is very obvious that this is Maha's egg.
Okay, because I don't know where I've seen it, but I did see it somewhere that, yeah, it was something to do with Maha. But...
Yes. But again, it's kind of a classic fantasy thing. You hold the child at ransom so that the parent follows your instructions.
Turkish Delight, anyone?
Interesting way of going about that. Yeah. But notably, Cruel Claw is working for somebody. It's not just that he and his band of necromancing squirrels are doing this just to, loot destroyed houses. They are doing it for a reason, but Cafe doesn't have that information.
So I'm assuming this person, this creature, whatever you want to call them, this creature that they're working for is native to Bloomburrow, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and we'll touch on him in a bit. But at this point, Mabel is very much team, we must retrieve the egg and return it to the Calamity Beasts. The balance of this world has been upset, and it is our job to set it right. And this is where the party requires some inspiration. Phineas in particular is like, we are out of our depth here. I am a farmer.
Yeah.
I did this to try and help people, but we're now talking about stuff that is way beyond our reach. And my notes say Ral is also here because he is. His main goal is to find Jace, but he's also, he's a good person at heart. He's not going to turn a blind eye to a catastrophe waiting to happen. Mabel gives them an inspiring speech, and of course, they now have to figure out, all right, where can we possibly go from here? Helga, you need to scry for us. And this is Helga's big moment. So firstly, what happens is, as we've established, when Helga scries, she has her sketchbook with her, and she paints as she scries. That's how she like kind of brings her visions into something tangible, into something understandable.
Okay.
She goes into a trance and she paints what she sees.
Very great. Actually, a great way of showing what your vision is.
Exactly. And as she's slipping through her sketchbook, she shows an image of a giant bird that is not Maha and is not one of the other Calamity Beasts, which is referred to as the Sunhawk, which is like one of the good ones. It's a day-night situation, but it is a secret, surprising third thing, which Ral actually finds familiar.
I also found it familiar.
Yes, and we'll touch on that more so when it comes up, but to give it its description.
So Ral's not the only thing from off-plane, basically.
No, and he says as much. Now, he does say maybe it's from another plane, and Phineas is like, what? What do you mean? And Ral's just like, forget it. Not important. Ral, so this is when you ask, like, is Ral trying to blend in, or is he just outwardly saying, I'm from another place.
Yeah.
50-50. He doesn't really care one way or the other, seemingly. He is mission focused.
Yeah, because for context, like before this, planeswalkers rarely gave knowledge that there was anything outside of a plane that they visited, because to the most part, everyone believed that there's nothing outside their plane. They just believe that they're the only ones. It opens up a can of worms that's like it could potentially disrupt the peace, and they just refrained normally from talking about the plane or talking about being outside the plane. But now, because of what we mentioned earlier on with the omen paths, a lot of the planes are connected now, and people are aware of that. They could see when the Phyrexians invaded every single plane that like a big tear in the sky opened up, and yeah, there was these creatures from all sorts of places coming into their plane. So that's where some people they seen where the path is because people were coming in or Phyrexians were coming in that way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting that Bloomburrow, this plane, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, even though supposedly the Realm Breaker, was basically a tree that they Phyrexianized to spread its roots into every other plane and create paths, for some reason didn't reach this plane. And I think there's something to explore there. So
yeah. So Helga is able to successfully scry. It takes her a couple of attempts because, again, distraction, self-doubt seeps in. Zorlin is actually the one who encourages her and is able to get her to the point where she's able to successfully divine the next location, which is Fountainport.
Great name.
Great name. It is somewhere that she's been before, actually, because that's where she used to study weaving.
Oh, okay.
Again, the term
That's
for
the magic.
Yes.
Yep.
This is where she used to study under the king.
Okay. So Fountainport.
Fountainport.
So it's a fountain with port, or it's a port that sells fountains, or it's just a port that has a fountain.
It is a port that has a fountain.
Okay, because you never know. Like
it could be multiple meanings. And yes, when they go to leave the lorekeeper rats, they are warned of this creature, the dragon hawk, as we're going to learn it's called. And this is where Ral is like, oh, it could be from another plane. And people are like, what are you talking about? And he's like, forget it, it's fine. And this also leads to conversations as they are on their way to Fountainport, where Phineas, the rabbit, is attempting to get to know Ral a bit better.
Good luck.
Yeah. May I ask where you hail from? Phineas asked. Far away, Ral replied. The outer woods? Farther. Phineas skipped around a puddle. Any family waiting for you back home? For some reason, that question gave Ral pause. My husband, Tummock, he said brusquely.
Was there any reaction to him saying husband?
If there was, we didn't know it because he whacked the flower with his tail, seemingly on purpose rather than by accident, and whatever question Phineas might have aimed next stayed in his quiver. Like, stop talking to me. But this does give Mabel a opportunity to have a one-on-one with Ral, because she also has a husband and family waiting for her back home, and she sympathizes that being so far away in an unknown place must, Ral's in a very tricky situation there. However, these wonderful conversations are unfortunately halted by the arrival of the Dragonhawk, which has summoned a storm in its arrival. A giant creature hovered in the air, purple lightning crackling across its body. It resembled the Sunhawk in that they were both bird-like. This monster, however, had 4 wings instead of 2, the ends webbed like a bat folk's, a crest on its head she'd seen on lizard folk. The feathers on its back were mud-colored, as were its coverts, but the primaries and secondaries were white, the tail striped. Its sharp talons looked large enough to carry off even Hugs with little difficulty.
I forgot about Hugs.
Yeah, Hugs doesn't talk much. He's there still though. This is when Ral does assert that this is a dragon. Okay. It is not a calamity beast. It is a dragon.
which they don't know what a dragon is, I'm assuming.
He refers to it as being animal shifted, which is the same thing that happened to him. So it is definitely a creature from another plane.
And he's saying this to the party?
Yes.
Okay, so he's just straight up going, yep, there's other planes.
He doesn't say it in as many words. This creature is not from Bloomburrow. It's extremely dangerous, like your Calamity beasts. If we attract its attention, we'll be in immense trouble. And at that point, when you're staring down the barrel of a dragon, you're going to listen to the magic daughter man and do your best to not draw attention to yourself.
Do we know which dragon this is?
It is not confirmed which dragon this is.
So my theory still stands.
I think you are half correct in your theory, and I'll touch on why when we get to chapter 5.
Okay.
But at this point, again, we're putting our D&D lens on right now. Everybody roll stealth checks as we try and make our way through these dandelions.
I'm sneezing.
Funny you say that.
Yeah, as soon as I heard dandelions, I was like, someone's going to sneeze.
Zora then wakes up.
Oh, what a great time.
Yep, she sneezes, not realizing what's happening. She speaks aloud. Where are we? Why is everyone so quiet? Oh no, a dragon attack. I literally, in my notes, have failed stealth check.
Oh my god, so the dragon's attacking them now, I guess.
It is. Luckily, this ain't Ralph's first rodeo with dragons.
You could say that.
And he and Phineas worked together to create essentially a lightning rod. So Phineas has a copper arrow.
People wouldn't have seen, but I just raised my eyebrow there.
Yeah. Listen, everything I'm saying is insane, even by magic standards. So, we're just rolling with it. But they fashioned this copper arrow, and Ral is able to unleash the full force of his lightning, giving the rest of the party ample time to run away. So this is technically another battle that they do not win. There is also a card of Ral doing this, in which he looks very, very cool as an otter.
It's something ferocious and also adorable when you see an otter slinging lightning.
Like, he's surrounded by red and blue bolts in this field of dandelions, but he is also still an otter. That's very important to keep in mind. But luckily, this is enough to have the Dragonhawk also retreat, and Ral is able to catch up with the rest of the party. He and Phineas have a bit of a "you're not so bad yourself" discussion in regards to what they've done, and on they go to Fountainport.
And when Ral goes home, he gets a pet bunny and calls it Phineas.
I would love that. It's a little weird, but it would be very funny.
That'd be very weird.
So, chapter 5, our final chapter of the story, is entitled Nightfall in Fountainport.
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 Port, right. Yes.
Been over this.
Yes, we discussed
this. It's a port with fountains.
Yes.
Namely, one big fountainette, which is shown in the art. I question how they were able to build this. Who knows?
Humans, after all.
I don't think so. Fountainport is one of the bigger settlements in Bloomburrow. Three Tree City is bigger, but this is a lot more fantastical because it is specifically where frogs go to learn weaving.
If it's a port, that means, well, it's a dock. A port is a dock.
Well,
things ship there.
I don't know how literal that is. It just says that it overlooks the biggest pond in Bloomburrow.
So we're being a little liberal with the word port.
A little bit, yeah. I don't know. I mean, there are rivers.
Okay. So, I was wondering, was there a... I was wondering if, there was boats or something, or did they actually trade with other people? It was like the world building?
If there is, it's not gone into here.
Fair enough.
But, it's somewhere that Helga's been before, but all of her companions, apart from Ralph, who couldn't care less, are very much enamored by their surroundings. And Mabel points out that, they are there specifically to see the King of the Frogs, King Glarb.
Glarb. I think I've seen something about him in previews.
Yes, he has his own card.
Yeah. He's like a white frog. He's albino.
He is albino. Interestingly, he is doesn't have white in his color scheme.
Okay, yeah.
He is green, blue, black. And if we remember, Helga is green, blue, white.
And also a frog.
And also, yes, she is also a frog. And Mabel refers to Helga as Glarb's apprentice. Because yes, Helga did previously learn under him, but was swiftly kicked out due to a series of unfortunate events that left him concussed. That is a different series. But literally what was said was, Ral asks, did he try to kill you? Of course not. Did you steal anything from him? I would never. Ral shrugged. Then you're fine. How do we get in to see him? And that just kind of shows Ral's baseline of employers, I guess.
Employers, but also just the guild that he is a part of in Ravnica, which is it, which are pretty much like, as long as you don't kill someone, do whatever you want.
Exactly. And you know it's kind of bad with Helga because when they're talking to like the people that work in Fountainport saying we need to go see the king, they recognize her name and go, really? You sure you want to do that?
Wow, okay. Already well known.
We were practicing water sprout cantrips. King Garb's aide released a swarm of gnats, and we were supposed to hit them with the spouts. You hit something else? Ral asked. Helga winced. I hit King Glarb, or rather his staff. I was looking the wrong way, and it doesn't matter. We're near the edge of the tier, and the staff fell. Oh no, Mabel said. I opened a portal under it, and another next to me so that it would fall into my hand. Helga closed her eyes. Except the king was standing there, and he sent out a water whip to catch the staff. Ral made a choking sound. So King Glarb hit himself with his own water whip through the portal. Then the staff fell onto his head, and it was falling so fast. Helga swallowed. He spent days recovering from the concussion, and the staff broke.
Oh no.
So this is why she was fired and is no longer his apprentice.
Oh my god. I love that.
I love Helga so much, man.
Oh, this needs an animation. This needs a series.
Honestly, I would love that. I would love for a Bloomburrow series. But they do get in to see King Glarb because they want to raise awareness about the Calamity Beast and what Cruel Claw is doing with the egg. However, Glarb is less than enthused, shall we say? Because he already knows everything. Because he is the one employing Cruel Claw and he is the one in possession of the egg.
Yeah, I kind of guessed that somehow.
Yeah, I was the same way. As soon as like we got to chapter 5, I was like, oh, he's going to be the baddie.
Yeah, if you're in chapter 5, you kind of assume that the character that's going to be introduced now is probably the bad guy.
Yeah. And again, the party does not pick up on this as quickly as we have until specifically God refers to them as sacrifices for the greater good.
I think I would be suspicious at that point, yes.
Yes. And of course, Cruel Claw then emerges from the shadows, being like, I've been here the whole time.
Ah ha ha ha.
So, you see, little Helga, the king continued, with the right weaving, I can control the Calamity Beast within that egg. Imagine never again fretting about the sudden change in seasons, or drought, or plague. Our very own champion would defend all animal folk in the valley, repelling the other Calamity Beasts by my command.
I can see his logic.
However, we have to keep in mind that because of all this, it has led Maha and the other Calamity Beasts to lay waste to the other settlements.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's good. Nothing good came from it, but I can see his logic.
History will vindicate my actions, King Glarb scoffed. I will be remembered as a pragmatist, nay, a visionary, who ushered in a new era of peace and prosperity. It is very much a can't make an omelette without cracking a few eggs.
Yeah, and the winners write the history books. So,
exactly.
I mean, if he came out on top, no one would even remember the towns that fell.
Yeah, and of course, Mabel and the others were like, we will never stand for this, and he goes, you won't be alive to tell the story.
Does he know Mabel is the hero at this point?
He doesn't care.
Okay.
The only thing he takes note of is like he says that there are a bunch of farmers and a failed weaver, and then he takes note of Ral being like, what's that ridiculous contraption on your arm? Doesn't matter, you're going to be dead anyway. Cruel Claw, take them out.
Yeah, that's not going to happen with Rawl there.
Nope. And of course, a fight ensues. Helga's magic actually pulls through, and she is able to not only assist in the fight, but like rescue a handful of her companions from King Glarv's magic.
Huh. Just need the imminent death to trigger your
Mm-hmm.
abilities.
I also want to point out that, how would you refer to a king in a fantasy setting if you were to address a king?
My liege.
Or your highness?
My liege, or I guess your highness or your majesty.
Yeah. Glarb is referred to as his moistness,
Ugh.
which is the worst thing I've ever read.
It's not, of all words to use, moist.
Moist.
Such a terrible word.
He is a frog. But yes, a fight ensues. Everybody is, doing their best. Mabel, in particular, is going up against Cruel Claw.
Okay. Seems unfair.
To who?
We'll see.
Cruel Claw is the one that loses, but there is a fantastic line here. I know your type, Cruel Claw rasped, cracking his neck. You think because you helped fend off some starving bandits once, it makes you a hero. You're not. I'm a professional and you're an amateur. I'm a fighter and you're a farmer. Leave with your life and make better choices. I'm not a farmer, Mabel replied. I'm a baker. But she is the one left victorious. But she notably spares his life. Because while she is a hero, she does not want to be the type of hero who holds things back from her children and her family. She wants to stick true to her ideals and by their image of her as a hero.
Not a murderer.
Exactly. She will not stoop to his level, and she throws his line back at him. Leave with your life, make better choices.
Nice.
Exactly. And there is a phenomenal artwork where that fight has ended and she is now with Helga fighting against King Glarb, which is also depicted on one of the story cards that we'll have in the YouTube feed. But King Glarb, notably, plays dirty.
Really?
Shocker, I know. I feel like I have to just read this whole thing. King Glarb's hooded lines began to spin around his platform. A failure like you cannot possibly understand my genius. Ral sided up to Mabel. We have a problem. Only one, Mabel retorted. A bigger one. This ends now, King Garb shouted. Lightning cracked the sky like a dropped plate. From between streaks of electricity, the Stormhawk emerged from a deafening roar, folding its four wings against its body. It plummeted towards the king like a lance. King Garb vanished into a portal as deadly claws raked the space where he stood. Individual fights ceased as animal folk fled from this new enemy. Mabel dragged Helga to the relative shelter of a vast throne, Ral close behind. So notably, we've been referring to it as the Dragon Hawk, but the Stormhawk, which, as we have discussed, is a dragon that has been animal shifted, was summoned by the king.
Interesting.
So we have been working off of the theory. Your theory in particular was that this was a certain dragon from another plane.
Yeah.
However, I don't think even a powerful weaver like King Glarb would be able to summon something directly from the plane.
I have my theories behind that. With the omen paths.
That's true.
Stuff like that, it might be a lot easier. But I think there could be someone behind Glarb.
A man behind the man.
Yeah, I think there is like a man behind the man. That
man behind the frog.
Now I didn't read chapter 5. What my theory is, especially for Magic the Gathering,
yeah,
they're setting up. They're definitely setting up something else here. And there was rumors going around online that the next sort of arc of the story is going to be is like called the Dragon Storm or something.
Ooh, okay, that's promising.
So it sounds like, at least according to the rumors, it sounds like there's going to be the dragons of Tarkir are going to be like a plot point in the next upcoming.
And again, in
upcoming stories.
In the video of this, we will have a comparison of the Stormhawk, Dragonhawk card compared to the dragon that we believe that it is.
Yeah, Colligan, I think is the dragon's name.
Yeah. I don't think it is that dragon in particular. I think it's one of its brood.
don't know. It is so similar.
It is very similar. But our intrepid heroes now have the dragon to contend with again. If we remember, didn't go so great last time. They essentially had to distract it and run.
Yeah, I mean,
And they're now in a closed space.
I mean, it's obviously not the size of a dragon because, like,
Relative to a mouse and friends, it might as well be.
I understand that, yeah, but like, so a bear in Bloomburrow, which unfortunately doesn't show up in the story,
No, not in this one.
a bear is already like titanic in size for these people. Like it's the biggest thing you could imagine.
Yeah.
A bear is nothing in size to a dragon.
I suppose not.
So, like, could you imagine if a dragon actually was
An
on the
actual
plane?
dragon, that's fair, actually, yeah. It's not a story card, but there is another card that depicts the Stormhawk in comparison to a mouse and a rabbit. I don't remember the name of the card off the top of my head, but we can, show that as reference. There's a lot of cards.
The only thing that's going through my head right now is that I can only imagine this dragon being so pissed off, being turned into a bird.
Listen, I don't know how sentient this dragon is.
Could you imagine, like, I'm a big, proud dragon, and now I'm the size of a bird, and like a mouse is this size compared to me? What is going on?
I suppose. But again, our heroes are now fighting against the dragon, and it once again is not going well. Mabel almost loses her life when suddenly a new challenger approaches. Maha the Night Owl comes to their rescue.
Interesting.
And begins fighting the Stormhawk.
Balance is restored?
Not quite yet. We get there.
Okay.
But they fight until the dragon flees again. Notably, not a lot of actual victories in this story.
Very cowardly dragon.
It's a big owl, in fairness.
It's a dragon.
But it is at this point Mabel realizes what we've already discussed, that the egg belongs to Maha.
Okay.
And there is a card, which I believe we actually pulled, where we see Mabel returning the egg. And the egg is roughly the size of her.
Oh, yeah. I actually have that card here. Story Spotlight cards, art done by Justin Gerard.
Yep.
Fantastic art.
It's beautiful, honestly.
Dawn's Truce. And
yes.
Yeah, it shows Mabel holding a very nice blue egg with kind of like an amber red spirals and designs through it.
And Ral, after the Night Owl takes the egg and flies away, Ral asks, "How did you know?" "I didn't," Mabel replied, "but if I followed the egg all this way to protect my own family, why not the other way around?"
Fair enough.
And Ral replies, "That may be the most motherly thing you've said since I met you." And then they clear everything up. King Glarb has fled. As mentioned, once he summoned the dragon, he vanished in a portal, so who knows where he's gone. Cruel Claw has also escaped, but hopefully he will follow Mabel's advice and make better choices. And so they get transport back to Good Hill.
From Maha?
No, Maha has left. Oh. They get a cabbage transport.
Cabbage?
A cabbage transport was summoned to carry the group home, big enough even to fit Hugs comfortably. The construct bobbed less than an Otter Folk's boat as it skittered on spider-like legs among the main roads towards Good Hill. Ral, of all folk, found it quite unsettling, asking more than once if Mabel was quite sure they wouldn't be suffocated by the mouldering produce.
Okay, that sounds horrible.
It sounds pretty bad. I don't want to know what that smells like.
Cabbage doesn't smell great at the best of times.
It's like the worst public transport they could have possibly gotten.
Like, that sounds luxurious compared to that.
But they're on their way home. They're having a few more chats, being like, "Wow, what a great adventure!" And eventually, they return to Good Hill, and Helga asks if she can stay and become a resident. And of course, she is welcomed with open arms by Mabel and her family.
I hope Helga comes back in future because I really do like Helga.
I think that she will, because Ral, is now getting ready to leave because his quarry, Jace, is not here. Yeah. And something happens.
As he's About to leave?
Mm-hmm. Before he could retort, Helga gasped, her eyes glowing like a mirror reflecting the sun. The voice that spilled from her mouth sounded distant, as if at the bottom of a pond. The kings in the dark will return, she intoned. The mage in blue will bring about the end.
Oh, and her eyes were glowing.
Yep. So this
Okay.
is different than the vision she has done before, in which she requires water to stare into and her sketchbook to kind of divine a future of some kind. This just came to her,
It sounds like someone or something
spoke through her.
spoke through her.
And I think that's likely the case because as soon as if it continues, the light left her eyes and Helga blinked as if nothing untoward had occurred. What kind of muffins?
Ooh.
And Ral and Mabel are just stood there like, okay.
Yeah, there's lots to unpack there.
So the kings in the dark.
Kings in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know a lot more about the magic lore than I do. Is that ever been something that's been addressed before?
On the top of my head, I can't think of anything. Kings in the it could refer to a lot of things. It could refer to Garb. Is it Glarb or Garb?
Glarb.
Glarb.
He is a king, that's fair.
King Glarb in the dark. Maybe the upcoming set in the Dusk Hollow? Duskmorn?
The one we never get right.
I think it's Duskmorn.
That's true, but it's the fact that the mage in blue will bring about the end.
Well, we kind of already gathered from previous stories that his idea is to reboot the world, restart the world, and make it how it should be.
Which is always a terrifying thing to hear.
Yeah, so it's very much setting up that this protagonist for such a long time in Magic's history. So, admittedly, when we were first introduced to him, he was working for an antagonist, but
That's true.
Wasn't quite aware of that.
So was Raoul, to be fair.
Yeah, Raoul was also working for him.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Definitely worth reading some of the previous lore that's available for free online, as well as novels written as well, especially for War of the Spark and the events leading up to that, which is kind of the first huge events that Magic has had in a long time.
Yeah, it was their end game, essentially.
And a long time protagonist was defeated and sealed away. Actually, something I was going to mention there is that the vision coming through Helga, it kind of sounds familiar to something that's happened before. And the only two things I can think of off the top of my head is one, Ugin the Spirit Dragon.
Oh, yeah.
The only other person or entity that I think of could do something like this is possibly Elspeth, who is now an angel.
I was also thinking Elspeth.
Elspeth is previously a character we had in the story who was a planeswalker.
Lost her spark.
Wait, did Elspeth lose her spark?
I believe she did.
The last character we had of Elspeth, I think, was a planeswalker.
Oh, maybe she didn't then.
I don't know.
Maybe I'm misremembering.
She could have, I don't know. Basically, she had a story in this Greek set called Theros, and she died. A lot of people theorized that, oh, it's Theros, she can come back.
And
she did. And then she went on a kind of a trip to kind of discover who she is, and she ended up on a plane called New Capenna, which is again a very fun set, very 1920s mobster, worth reading. And Elspeth ends up finding out that, oh, I'm actually from this plane originally, and it turns out that she is also an angel.
Yeah.
Like, not only an angel, but one of the angel. She's like an archangel.
Yeah. And the way it is described that Helga's visions come to her with the glowing eyes, I can see Elspeth reaching through her that way to communicate with Raoul.
Did it describe the color of the glow?
It said like a mirror reflecting the sun. So that could be bright white or maybe a yellowish tinge, which is very Elspeth code.
That sounds a little bit like Elspeth.
Yeah. We'll put a pin in that for future machinations for sure.
Definitely.
Because that's a plot hook that will be coming back in future sets. I'd be very surprised if that's not mentioned immediately.
Yeah, and we'll be doing episodes like this in future with other sets releasing. Any lore that we do get, we'll make updates, kind of cover what's coming out.
Yeah. So to wrap things up in this particular story, Mabel gives Ral a parting gift for him and Tomek, which is a pair of iron sap buttons embossed with holly leaves.
That's very cute.
It is very cute. These are going to be so small when he returns to Ravnica. If they're buttons for mouse-sized clothes. It's still really cute, though.
It is, but I am really curious how it's going to work. You know, bringing something from Bloomburrow to Ravnica.
That is a good question. She says, "You'll always be welcome here. Perhaps we'll journey together again." "Stranger things have happened," Ral replied. "Can't say I've loved having a tail, though." To which Mabel thinks, "What?" Mabel's question went unvoiced as Ral vanished in an explosion of lightning sparks that lit the evening, quickly fading into afterimages. A shriek behind her alerted Mabel to the presence of a pair of naughty mouselings staring at the garden in shock. "Did that otterfolk disappear?" Pip squeaked, grabbing at Mabel's leg. "Folk can't disappear," Boggy said. "He must have made a portal." So Ral has planeswalked away, not caring that he has done this in front of people.
What's interesting is portals are a thing that's normal in Bloomburrow, by the sounds of it.
Yes, because
that's what that kind of hints at, that it's, oh, this guy is the only one who can make a portal. People know about portals.
Portals are a thing, and it's established that Helg is able to make them, and Glarb was able to make them. So it's part of their weaving, but I imagine it's only over short distances, as opposed to plane wide. But then again, I think this is a good ending. It has a lot of hanging plot hooks for what can happen in future with the prophecy, where Glarb went, what's happened with Cruelclaw, just the entire existence of the Sunhawk, what Ral's going to do going forward, because I don't think we'll see him in another set so soon. I would be very shocked if we did.
Now that Bloomburrow's really wrapped up and like it's actually released, and because Wizards of the Coast hates our wallets.
Oh boy, do they.
There's going to be, in about a week's time, an educated guess out there.
A week from today?
Yeah, a week from today, my prediction will probably start getting spoilers of some sort.
For the next set?
Yeah. They don't even let us have time to enjoy a set.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because the official posts on the Wizard of the Coast website for Bloomburrow were posted between July 1st and July 8th, with the set officially being fully released on August 5th. So we're going to have at least a month's worth of buffer.
Yeah, but given that Dustborn, if that's what it's called, I have to double check that, is coming out in October, we'll probably get spoilers fairly soon, which we will be reviewing.
Speaking of reviewing, maybe we should talk about some of your favorite cards from the Bloomburrow.
Oh, it's as if I had that planned. Yes. Great segue.
Hi, JoJo here. So, just editor's notes. So, our episode 1 went way longer than we were anticipating. So, we ended up splitting the episode into 2 parts, but we are releasing both episodes the same day. It'll be in episode 1, part 1 and part 2. Enjoy.